What's up, everybody? Armchair Quarterbacks here for your Week 12 recaps. On this one, we have the Commish versus Mantequilla. That's us here. Me losing by a whopping 112.88 points. I scored this week 68.78 to Shawn's 181.66. First off, congrats on your win here, scoring 181 points, ridiculous amount. Let's take a look here really quick over at my team. This week, I started my typical Herbert, Amon-Ra, Puka, Breece Hall, Eckler, Kincaid, AJ Brown, and Rashid Shaheed. So that one was the one that I had the most difficulty with Rashid Shaheed versus Gabe Davis. And even before I think it was the Thursday game, Terry McLaurin. I wasn't sure which route to go with. Obviously, looking at the outcome points wise, in retrospect, Gabe Davis was the option to go with. And I will admit that was like the big option that I was looking at, because he was going up against Philly, who gives up a ton of points to the wide receivers. But I wasn't 100% sure on how your Josh Allen was going to play.
How did you feel? Final decision there?
What was that?
What was your final decision on the Rashid?
Well, I went with Rashid Shaheed.
Was it just you thought it was going to be more usage?
Yeah, I wasn't 100% convinced with your Josh Allen. He's been kind of hurt lately. He hasn't been playing the best that he's been playing before. And then with Mike Thomas being injured, there was a lot of talk that Chris Olave was going to get the heavy shadow. So Rashid Shaheed was going to get a lot of work. And I don't know if you saw when Sunday morning was going on, I was throwing out questions to everybody. I threw it out to CBS, I even threw it out to Fantasy Pros on Twitter if I could, but nobody answered there. But pretty much everybody that answered me was basically saying, you know what, go with Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, because of Gabe Davis's like zeros, basically, huh?
Exactly. Yeah. The up and downs with Gabe Davis. And apparently this was an up game for him. So, I mean, good for him. Unfortunately, it came at my cost.
I would say that that's a good point to bring up for everyone else is sometimes if you're like, when we ask the analysts, right, and they're just giving their opinion, everyone, they're not perfect. There's a lot of people that even say don't listen to them. Because at the end of the day, you got to make your own decision and live with it.
Yeah.
But one of the biggest things is, like you said, Gabe Davis has an upside. So even like in this situation here, for anyone in the group that's questioning either this season or in the future, you really want to shoot for the upside if you're kind of unsure,
Yeah.
So for me, I would have played. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's funny because this decision, the Rashid Shaheed Gabe Davis decision, what made it even harder was I asked the CBS crew, because they had 4 guys on at the time, and they were split 2-2, Gabe Davis versus Rashid Shaheed. So it was just like, it was one of those things where it was like I was looking for a consensus answer, but I guess no consensus answer doesn't even help.
If you had asked me in the morning, I would have said Gabe Davis. Reason being the tempo of the Philly and Buffalo game was going to be a lot faster versus Atlanta, who they run more and
they try to slow the game down.
They slow it down, and then Derek Carr has been really bad, and now he has no one to throw it to, so it's like that's even more slow.
Well, I mean, the thing that was promising with Rashid Shaheed, he left early. I think it was in the second quarter. It was like, I think there was still like 8 minutes left in the quarter or something like that.
Yeah,
but
it was still early.
Yeah, it was early enough. But I mean, if you look at it, in the first quarter plus like let's say 5 minutes in the second quarter, he had 5 targets. That's a good amount of targets. So if that kept up the pace of the game, I think he would have ended up with maybe like 10 to 15 targets.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is what it is. It's unfortunate. Pretty much my whole entire team had down games. I mean, to be fair, I think if I remember correctly, when I looked at the beginning of the season, my schedule towards the end, especially going into the playoffs. I believe all of my players, even the ones like after like week 1 and 2, when I picked up Puka, when I made the trade for Brees, I believe pretty much all of my players had like the roughest schedule coming out of, like the week 10, 11 Thanksgiving break, and then going into the playoffs. So it makes sense here. I mean, Justin Herbert, Austin Eckler going up against Baltimore. Baltimore's vaunted defense there. Ridiculous.
That one I actually thought that was going to be higher scoring. I thought Justin Herbert was going to be able to move around more out of the pocket, at least open things up a little bit. And it really shows that they really do miss Mike Williams, because he was that deep threat.
Yeah.
Even if it was only a couple up games, he's not as consistent as Keenan Allen in terms of slot, just for fantasy, but in terms of real life, Mike Williams really opens up that whole gameplay.
Yeah, definitely. Anybody else here on my team that you kind of want to talk about? Anybody you feeling?
Let's see. Puka Nacua, I think he'll get his. I don't think Cooper Kupp's healthy at all. No. He's got the ankle and the hamstring now, so it seems like he doesn't have that first burst speed. It's just kind of hurting his route. The way he's running his routes. So I think Puka Nacua will eventually figure it out, and I think Sean McVay's smart enough there. And against Arizona, this was all running. I mean, even to the point where even Royce Freeman was getting pretty close. I think it was 16-13 in the snaps. So this is just a running game. This was actually against Arizona. It was the last time Kyron Williams was healthy, and I was at your house saying I hope he gets all the work in the second half. Sure enough, he does, and he gets injured. So I was actually surprised they kept him out for as long as they did.
Actually, looking at Puka's stat line from this week against Arizona versus week 6 against Arizona, almost exactly identical. Both 4 catches, week 6 for 26 yards, this week for 27 yards. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and so they already have that formula of running on Arizona. Brees Hall is an interesting one here. 7 receptions, which is not bad. So you're getting all your points. I mean, man, look at the points you're getting just off of receptions. So that's pretty good. At least his floor, the ceiling's going to be a little bit lower considering, Zach Wilson or what was it, Tim Boyle that they went with this week.
The only thing is I just need him to be more productive on the run game. He's been horrible on the run game lately.
Yeah, it was really weird. I felt like they're using Dalvin Cook more this week with Tim Boyle in. So I mean, even in previous weeks, Zach Wilson will check it down more to Brees Hall. So
yeah,
will be interesting to see there. And then AJ Brown, he's gonna pick it up. A couple games now that he's been on a down game, and I mean, 12 points is his down game. You take it. Versus Devontae Smith during the beginning of the season, where every game was like 6 points or less.
Yeah.
So
I mean, AJ Brown saved his game with the touchdown, which is I'm fine with that as long as he can get above the 10 points. That's fine with me. But I would love to see him outscore his projections.
For sure, definitely, especially for your top guys.
All right, so let's take a look over here at your team. So your team, for the most part, pretty much went off. Yeah, Josh Allen for 40 points, Stephon Diggs 16, Zay Flowers. You said he saved his day with pretty much those touchdowns. Bijan Robinson starting to get some really good looks now. Charbonnet and Trey McBride. Charbonnet not really what you expected, but for me, the NFC West, any in division game with Seattle that involves Seattle, I always feel like it's a more slower paced game. I feel like they always pretty much have lower scoring, and everybody pretty much has everybody figured out. Trey McBride, he did pretty decent for a tight end. You can't complain there. Then you had Isaiah Pacheco and Kyron Williams go off here again. So, I mean, you talked about it before we started recording. You feel like it's a curse because you feel like all of your team's touchdowns pretty much came in this one week. But I mean, most most teams now are pretty banged up. Bijan Robinson, Arthur Smith had talked about it all season. He wanted to save Bijan Robinson for the long haul. And in the past few games, it seems like he's been getting a decent amount of usage. And then if you look at his rest of the season schedule, he's only got one tough matchup against Tampa Bay in week 14. But besides that, like everything else is going to look pretty good for you. I don't think he's going to continue two touchdowns per game, but I think he'll at least get you one, maybe almost one touchdown per game for the rest of the season.
So, I mean, the biggest thing there was he was getting some of that receiving work, which was, I'm not going to lie. On Thursday after your Amon-Ra St. Brown game, I was like, yeah, it's not going to look good for me this week, right? Like the whole schedule looked good, but I felt like I threw in Charbonnet instead of Stevenson there. Otherwise, I would have been pushing 200 points, which is just like, that's fool's gold when you look at this.
Yeah.
All these guys, I mean, Pacheco, I was watching that game because I wanted to watch one of the afternoon games, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire was out there for second and third, and then they finally brought in Pacheco on the fourth try.
Yeah,
on the goal line, like inches.
I think it was that touchdown. I think that's where I just shut off the games. I just turned it off.
It was like, it's like, so even with like my frustration, because I was even saying that with barbecue mustache over there in Kansas City.
Yeah.
The same thing I was telling you earlier, the Zay Flowers one, when he goes off on that last touchdown in garbage time where he could have just pulled a Nick Chubb, go down and end the game, and then it dawns on me. I told my coworker at work, it's like, oh yeah, him throwing the bouquet for the touchdown celebration because his last name's Flowers.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, realistically, the big chunk of my points came from that Philly stack game, that one and Kyron Williams.
Yeah, I mean, Kyron Williams for 37 points, that was ridiculous. He had 143 rushing yards, and then 100% on his target catch rate, 6 for 6.
That, crazy. I mean, so I basically went to Bass Pro Sunday morning. I was like, you know what, I need to look for a couple shirts for work, some of the classes I might be teaching, and I was like, all right, I don't feel good about this week. This past several weeks I've been struggling to make 100 points.
Right.
And like you said about your Gabe Davis, thought process, Josh Allen hasn't been looking the best. Which for fantasy, you're not too worried about his interceptions. They're going to be in these games coming from behind. For fantasy, it's great. But they've been using the run more ever since they fired their offensive coordinator. I believe there was a stat showing that it was actually pretty split in terms of receiving work for the backs versus receiving works for the pass catchers. So it shows that surprisingly they're trying to use the backs a lot more.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, obviously that's showing because my Puka, he's getting less targets. Your Kyron Williams obviously saw the 6 targets here. So as long as that's going to continue, I think that's going to affect not just Cooper Kupp, but my boy Puka as well. It's pretty rough.
I will say for your boy Puka, I think, like I said, that Cooper Kupp's not healthy. I mean, we saw some Tyler Higbee and Tutu Atwell in this past game just because it was such a blowout. But I think eventually, if they start leaning on Royce Freeman and Kyron Williams there for the run, this is definitely going to open up for Puka Nacua because I think he is the healthiest pass catcher there. So
I hope so. I mean, for me, that's healthiest with a grain of salt because he's been popping up the last few weeks with different injuries. So, and I mean, obviously he's played through them. He's a younger player, so he's able to kind of tough it out. But and the injuries don't affect him as much. But still, how many injuries can you build up before you stop playing? You kind of take a break to get yourself 100.
Well, you think of it this way: he's going to be your flex once A-Chain comes back. So
We'll see.
That's a pretty good. I mean, you can't ask for worse for for a flex. You're looking for a flex.
Yeah. Well, I will say, watching from what I did watch, because I turned the games off, but I still see the notifications from Sleeper, from Bleacher Report, whatever, here and there. So seeing the things here and there from what I saw, I was disappointed in myself that I dropped Jacoby Myers. I mean,
I was surprised too.
It was the move for me that made sense to pick up Rashid Shaheed, as well as I think it was to pick up Logan Thomas. I forget. But either way, I made the move to drop him, and then I saw that you picked him up right away, and then you dropped him, and then as soon as he scored that touchdown, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna pick him back up.
Yeah, to pick him back up.
You beat me to it. You by like 5 seconds. You beat me to it.
You know what that was? Guess what notification that was? Because I picked up someone before and dropped them again. Remember who I picked up?
I forget who. Jahan Dotson, right? No. It was
no.
I forget who. Who was
Jacksonville.
it?
I'm at Bass Pro and I see in the parking lot Etienne gets out.
Yeah.
Questionable to return. That's the key phrase. Questionable to return.
Yeah.
Like, okay, T. Ernest Johnson. But
yeah. I don't know. It was a rough week for me and a really great week for you. Again, this is the highest blowout score so far in the entire league for the entire season. 112.88 points. I don't think there's going to be any other blowout this large the rest of the season. Unless, someone absolutely goes off and somebody else just decides to quit on benching or starting players. But that doesn't count then at that point.
I'll just say that even all the way on red zone where you hear the alarms going off, and I told Kevin I wanted to be back for the afternoon games, mainly for the Philly and the Buffalo game, because I thought it was going to be a game of the possibly of the year,
right?
And then my Broncos also with playoff implications. So it was just interesting to see that we actually got a pretty decent week of fantasy football, just like from a spectator point.
Yes, yeah, from a spectator's point of view, yeah.
Barring the Thursday night games have always been pretty bad. But like you get the Sunday main slate, and it's been pretty good, man. It was good to see.
It was funny. I was watching. So for those that don't know, I was in Arizona since last week for Thanksgiving, which is why Shawn ended up doing one of the recordings for us. But when I was sitting there in the Airbnb watching the Thursday games, I told you, I texted you, like I felt so sorry for my Amon-Ra, because it's just like the only thing that was missing was the touchdown. Like he was so close, But the entire game the entire time I was watching the Green Bay and Detroit game, I was just thinking, dude, Detroit's just like really pooping on themselves. Every Thanksgiving, they always lose. They can never find whatever chemistry they need. They can never find whatever spell they need, whatever curse they need to break to win a Thanksgiving game. It's so funny.
The only thing missing that was Aaron Rodgers wasn't there, so we could laugh even more.
Yeah, exactly.
This is
oh man,
you see him throw his little hissy fits.
Yeah. All right, well that'll be it for this Week 12 recap. Congrats again on your win, Shawn. Hopefully I have better luck next week. But other than that, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.